Hi, hello, how are you all this fine day? I hope that if you're here, you subscribe to this channel if you're not already. And you check out the links that are down below. We've got email newsletter, social media, my website, tons of things for you to enjoy. So do me a solid, check them out. And while we're here, since around this neck of the woods we like to break those stereotypes and clear the air of misconceptions and assumptions, and one of those that we really need to challenge is that autistic people are only entirely self-centered, which is ironic because if you look up the etymology of the word autism, the root of aut, A-U-T, means self. So it's kind of reasonable in a way to kind of put two and two together and see that as a thing. And it's also reasonable to make that claim because a lot of the thought process that can go behind autistic thinking makes it seem very focused on the self, in that we can kind of get trapped in our own heads and we can struggle with relationships, which in turn may lead others to assume from an outward standpoint that you are like standoffish. And I know I've heard that before for myself, especially when I was younger and I didn't know how to mask and didn't know that was a thing, that I was shy, but I also came off as withdrawn and even like cold, which again, I think that's a common thing that autistic people experience. And you know, when we have our heads set on something and it's so hard to derail us, it can be very hard to think of much else, let alone other people. So, yeah, I get it. I get where that stereotype comes from. But as with any stereotype, while to some degree there's truth behind it, it only paints a very limited picture of the complexity of autistic people and the autistic mind in general. Personally, I tend to want to think more about other people because constantly feeling like I'm trapped in my own head can feel very overwhelming to some degree. You know, there's also, it's a really odd dynamic that there's a sense of safety and control in having things more on yourself, your routine, your track of thinking. That's kind of a security blanket, but at the same time, when those thoughts can get too much, for me, I like to go really outward, and the last thing I want to think about is myself. I want to be taking care of other people, thinking about other people, doing all of that. So, as with many things, it's a lot of one extreme to the other, go big or go home, if you will. And when thinking about other people, given that there is so much sensory and energy involved with being autistic, feeling overloaded with that, the same goes with being empathetic and being what a lot of people now call an empath or a highly sensitive person, which I think is kind of what neurotypical kind of put towards those traits, but it's kind of just in our neurodiverse DNA that we need more kind of, I guess, isolated time, because even being among people, even if it's not requiring that much work, it can still be very draining. So there's just a lot of elements at play, as well as the element of not necessarily needing relationships the same way neurotypical people do, of humans being social creatures. It can appear self-centered that we're very content being by ourselves. That isn't to say that we don't care about other things. It's just that we don't necessarily crave and depend upon social relationships to feel content, feel whole, and find a balance, a healthy balance within ourselves. All of that to say that it can kind of sound confusing, understandably so, but the claim of self-centeredness and the very bad traits of being selfish, of being inconsiderate, of all these things, a lot of it does play into reading social signals, in having more of the social intuition, if you will, of what others expect of you. Of, if you are a considerate person, you need to do this, this, and this. And that's not always natural for autistic people or neurodiverse people. So, with all of that said, I hope that expands your mind, at least, of what it means to be really empathetic, the different ways we can attune to others' needs, their thoughts, how we can care for other people, because what you might find as a caring act or an act of service might not look the same if you're neurotypical, neurodiverse. There's just, in general, a need for expansion in that realm. And I hope the same can go vice versa. Just as autistic people try and, you know, cross all the T's, dot all the I's of being thoughtful and of, you know, really caring about other people, because, you know, we experience love and relationships and all of the human things still. It's a two-way street. So the potential self-centeredness that can simply come from being ignorant of other needs, other ways of being. So with all of that said, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Start a conversation. If you're not already, subscribe so we can keep chatting, keep breaking those stereotypes. And thank you so much for being here. So many blessings to you this fine day. And we'll see you all next time.